Oh, hello, fellas.
What's going on, man?
What's up?
We need to have a thing that gives us a warning before it goes live, right?
It's just like jamming out over here.
We're live now.
Yep.
We're
How's
live
everyone
now.
doing?
Good, man. Good. How about you?
Doing too blessed to be stressed, man. Another good week. Blessed to be here. That's it.
Awesome. What about you, David?
Man, I'm good. Busy. I've been going nonstop. I feel like I've been kind of off my game a little bit today. Just boom, 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 trying to get all these things done. But it's cool, man. You keep plugging along. You do the best you can do, and whatever you don't get done today, you just do it tomorrow.
Keep bugging and fucking spreading that loving, man.
That's it, man. Spread the love without getting hurt.
Frank like that one.
I didn't even know he had it in him.
Yeah. Those are my two phrases, man. But yeah, no, it's good. How was your week, Frank?
I mean, it's been good so far, just working and staying busy, and
Awesome.
got a new social media manager who's been killing my social media game for me, outsourcing, right?
Nice.
Yeah, which is awesome, especially when they know more about it than I do in the first place.
Right.
And so, you know what I really like though? So let's get
The
a
mess
here, right? Oh, I do love, yes. Actually, let's just change it up, right? What I didn't know about social media until people experts, until I started researching them and interviewing them and talking to them, was the engagement piece that they do for you.
Yeah.
Right? I knew they posted, and I knew they would brainstorm ideas hey, Frank, here's some ideas for some reels we want you to try and work on, or, this is what we want you to do with live. I knew all that, but man, I didn't know about the engagement piece. And you want to talk about a weight lifted off your shoulders is that conversation, that ongoing engagement that hopefully gets people to then engage with you back. Man, that's priceless. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Speaking of engagement, if you're watching right now and you're not subscribed to our channel, if you're watching us on YouTube especially, we hope that you will subscribe to our, wherever you do that at, up here, down there, over there, wherever it is that they tell you to go to subscribe. We hope you'll do that because we love subscribers and we love, the love that you give us back. Just saying.
Absolutely.
Chris Dis checking in. What's up, brother?
Good to see you.
The
Thanks
love
for
you
being on.
take is equal to the love you make.
Hey,
Ooh, look at
wow.
you dropping the fire early on.
Hey Frank, quick shameless plug on who's doing your social media for you.
Ooh, yeah, SMS Media.
SMS
So
Media.
they're out of they're out of they're out of like the Northern Virginia DC area, and yeah, Maria is awesome. I was referred to her by Jess, who was on our show last year, and
I think she was in the highlight video even.
Yeah.
And what I love about her is like same exact like kind of person as Jess, right? Like they're of course different like characters, you know what I mean? But the same. What's up, Matt? But the same like drive for the wedding industry to help wedding professionals like be able to say that they can take something off of their shoulders, relax a little bit, and let a professional take care of it. It's been really really nice.
That's awesome. It is really nice, man, especially as someone who struggles with social media like myself. Dude, I just downloaded, I got a new phone, so I was like, all right, I got to re-download everything. I re-downloaded Instagram. Dude, I was off Instagram for a really long time. And dude, social media I get a lot of anxiety about it, probably all internal stuff, right? So it's really tough for me like get on there. I'm trying to like starting slowly like with stories and stuff back again, but I really need to post. And I know it's such an important part of the business. Like you know that, y'all know that. Yeah. And dude, to have that weight lift off your shoulders where you could just be like, hey, like you go take care of this real quick so I can go do the things that I'm good at and that I enjoy is huge. Because I'll tell you, y'all, like I re-downloaded Instagram today. I had 25 DMs, dude. Stuff that I'm missing, bro. Dropping the ball out here. So it's like, dude, you don't realize how important it is until you take it away for a little bit. And you're like, dude, this isn't a huge part of running a business, especially one that is so people centered, right?
Right.
And yeah, that's it. So to have that weight lifted off your shoulders is huge. And I might honestly have to look into some of that stuff as well, because yeah, it's tough. It's hard to do everything.
It doesn't hurt to have the help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that we all are we all like, you know, I was talking to somebody today about this. And it's like the things that I actually like doing are the things that are most of the time consuming and probably the least value of my time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I like these graphics and all these things we have for our shows and all that stuff. I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm not claiming for them to be awesome or whatever, but like, I don't know. I think they usually turn out pretty good, but I spend way more time on them than I need to. Like it would just make more sense for us to have some person that we could just, you know, pay them some bucks to just do it for us, you know? But when you have a product that doesn't necessarily generate any money, I mean, this is more of a labor of love for us, then you kind of have to do those kind of things. Which, by the way, right above me here, we did apply for a grant. We mentioned that last week or last show. I guess was that last week or whenever?
It was last week, man. Yeah.
Okay. So we mentioned that last show, but we applied for a grant. So this right up here above me and the boys, I know it's kind of a long URL, but that's why I figured I'd just post it where you could just look at it. If you feel so inclined to do so, we'd really appreciate you going to that website and just showing us a little bit of love. It hopefully will help us with this grant money that we applied for to kind of, you know, maybe do things like I said, have a social media manager person for the show and things like that.
Continue to improve the show and
just help us broaden the the spectrum of who sees and hears the show, essentially.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know who's watching right now. If you would drop in the comments, do you like doing social media? I'd really be curious to know. I know a lot of us don't. I know it's crazy. Like, I personally, I don't. Like, I mean, I like seeing what other people are posting and I like to engage with them because I think it's cool to be connected. But for me, posting my own stuff, I don't know. It's tough.
See, I mean, I like doing it. I just find two things. I find that it's hard to stay committed to doing it consistently. And I was only doing it every other day. And I was using a social media scheduler when I was trying to. And so I was having some success staying on track, but eventually it just fell off. The other thing that I realized is like every single one of those posts, if you look at like a real like social media account, right? Or somebody who's doing it the right way. They're engaging, they're asking for engagement or the call to action, right? And like I realized back when I was reviewing kind of what I had done on my own, I'm like, I'm not doing any of that as good as it needs to be done for this to really work.
Yeah.
And so, now I have the ability to kind of brain dump on somebody, and then they can put all that together and make it come to life on social media, which has been really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I know what the posts are, but like when I log on, like I didn't post it. So it's like when I log on, I'm like, oh, hey, look,
right,
there's my post for the day.
Dude, it's like I feel like that's the same feeling I got when I first started like outsourcing my editing. And I was like, I'm going to let someone else handle this because there are people that are better than editing out there than I am. And when I watch the video back, when they send me like the revisions, I'm like, dude, this is incredible. It's like, oh, there's the video and it's awesome. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So yeah, cool. It's super neat to watch it kind of take shape. And it's a full-time job. I mean, if you look at like you were talking about like the reels and stuff, the complexity of social media between Facebook Business Suite, Instagram, all the stuff, TikTok, YouTube, everything, that all the platforms, dude, there is so much just content out there that you can be posting. And it's a full-time job, dude. It really is. That's why I think having someone to manage it for you is really, really helpful.
Yeah, definitely smart. So Chris just says it takes far too much time away working on other aspects of my business, which are more important to my clients and making a living. Yeah,
that's absolutely facts.
Yeah,
that's the biggest truth I've heard tonight. So
it's just sadly in the world we live in now, it's just a necessary evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's absolutely.
And I think that's why, like we've said it in the past, and I'll repeat it for those who either didn't hear me say it or weren't listening when I did say it. This is why when you're budgeting for your business, you need to be thinking about these things. Okay, let me do some research. What is it going to cost me to have a social media manager? If that's something that you either, as Chris said, takes too much of your time away from the things that you feel are important to your client, I would kind of not necessarily argue, but I would kind of say that I do think social media is important for your clientele, because most of us who are doing weddings, the clients that we have are in the age group that are on social media. So it is important for us to be there. But I also agree that it may not be the best use of Chris's time, right? That part I totally agree with. So the next piece in that is, okay, what is it going to cost me then to have that still happen? Like what you're doing, Frank. What is it going to cost me to have that still happen, but not have me do it myself? And how can I implement that into my budget so that I can afford to pay for it, and I don't feel like I'm drowning because I'm paying this person all this money to do something for me that I don't think is necessary.
Yeah. And you know what's really interesting? Because like I said, I just went over the last 4 to 5 months and interviewed close to 20 social media managers.
Wow, dude, that's
right?
Awesome. Yeah.
From like freelance level social media managers, right, all the way up to like full on like professional businesses. The two things that I found, which were probably the most interesting to me, were they're all, 95% of the people I talk to all roughly charge the same thing. Right. Minimally different. Right. So not enough, about 5%, 1 or 2 of the people that I spoke with, charged something significantly different, either plus or minus, one a lot lower, one a lot higher. And, that was just because I think one of them that I spoke with is just aiming at bigger businesses. And one of them that I spoke with is aiming just kind of more starting out and doesn't have any kind of a portfolio yet, so, but they're all roughly the same. So pricing wise, you want to ask it. That's an important question, of course, for your business purpose, but you're probably going to end up like interviewing the first person like I did, thinking like, holy shit, really? And then by the end of it, I'm like, okay, well, if I want to do this, that's pretty much the number, that I'm working with. So that was the first important thing. The second important thing that I realized when interviewing all these different social media managers is like they had to understand me. They had to start, like a few of them constantly spoke in a way that I'm just thinking to myself, Like, if that's how they're going to speak on my social media pages, like, it's not going to sound like me, you know? And so I really focused in on like the conversation, how personal or personable were we able to be with each other? You know, how did we talk? Did they interact? Did they understand some of the terms that I was using, some of the lingo that I was using, right? Because that's just how we all have our own words. And in the end, there were about 3 to 4 of them that I felt like all could have done an amazing job for me. One of them might be watching, and I did her wedding, you know, and I didn't even know she was a social media manager. And, she was one of those final 4 for me. You know, she wasn't, in full transparency, she wasn't the one that I went with. And I appreciated all the time that she spent with me, you know, but it was really interesting because I had one who was directly in my market, one who had experienced my service firsthand. And then the other 2 were more just like, you know, companies. The one that I went with was a little bit more of like, you know, a company that I didn't necessarily have any direct ties to, but still in Virginia, still very familiar with the market in the area and what people are looking for in these areas already. A lot of the wedding professionals that she helps or that they help are in the Virginia, DC area. So it all worked out. But I think those are my 2 big pieces of advice is, you know, the price kind of is what it is. So if you can afford it, you should go for it. I don't think somebody starting out should be carving out a social media manager budget just because it's a little bit, you know, but a couple years into business, I think it's something that if you had a target, you could probably attain. And then 2, just make sure that the communication is clean with that person, because they're going to be talking as you. Basically.
Well, and that's to, you know, Chris Discus' point. I kept it up here because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with what he's saying in this comment, which is, you know, you've got to make sure that they can speak your language and they can, you know, I don't think it's necessarily like, I don't think you have to hide the fact that somebody else is on your behalf. Because you're still in control of your own social media account. Yeah. But I do agree that like it should definitely be somebody who speaks the way you speak and understands the message that you would communicate if they were talking directly to you. And secondly, I don't think there's anything wrong with letting people know you have a social media manager. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And then you don't have to worry about, you know, the clientele thinking that it's you, and then they find out it's actually, you know, a social media manager, so to speak.
Yeah, and I would almost even, to add to that, I would almost say it's no different than having a DJ on your staff that's meant to, like, you train them on your style and your how you manage your business and your vision, right? I mean, I feel like that's the same exact thing. So having a team around you, I think, is actually pretty cool, as long as it's done right, like you guys said. So
that's a great point.
Frank, I just wanted to ask you, just to kind of piggyback off of that, how much, if someone's looking to, maybe like you said, they've been in business for a couple of years, they're ready to take that next step, about the price point or average would you say you found in terms of budgeting for that?
Yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to say ballparking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So low end was roughly like, okay, so some people do weekly and some people do monthly, which is something I found out, charging wise. So where one company might do weekly and tell you that there's a minimum 6-week contract, then the next company might say it's monthly and it's a minimum 3-month contract or 6-month whatever. Mm-hmm. So they all do it a little bit different. The one advantage that I learned about from the weekly people was that you could space those weeks out over a longer period of time if it was agreed to initially with some of these companies, not all of the companies, but some of them. So I found that interesting. Roughly $200 a week is like your baseline packages. Up to like $300 a week would be like your more engagement related, more regular posting, multiple platform type packages. On the monthly side, it was roughly anywhere from about like $750 for low end stuff up to, with certain companies, as high as like 2,000, and again a month, which those companies or those businesses that offered the 2,000 type packages, they're also telling you, hey, you're going to get X number of posts on Instagram, X number on Facebook, you're going to get engagement reports as far as like how well is this working, what's trending up for you, what hashtags are working, which ones aren't. They can see all these things. They can they can start to understand, like, did a picture with words on Instagram work better than just a picture on Instagram? So, like, for example, we're doing 2 different client review posts this month. One of them is a picture of the couple with the review below it, right? The other one is like a little blurb about how we love testimonials, but the actual testimonial is in a graphic. And so they're going to assess like which one got more engagement. So it's really interesting kind of how they approach it. So, and then some of them do Pinterest. A lot of the Pinterest ones I found out are like, they're usually a separate package for like an add-on minimal of like $500 to $800, or companies that do it just Pinterest by itself. So it's interesting, but I say be prepared to spend anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a month for somebody who I feel like could do the job for anybody.
Yeah,
it's good to know. And you said Pinterest is separate from those other platforms.
Some companies offer it, but Pinterest is really, I learned this. It's so different, man. It's like a search engine. I didn't even know how different it was because I just never touched it. So it's so different. I really think that the mindset of how you run social media on Facebook and Instagram is so different from how you run it on Pinterest that it probably does take a different person. And I think the companies that offered it as an additional like package add-on kind of thing, I think they had a separate person that actually did just Pinterest for their clients.
That makes sense.
Versus where they stayed with the IG and the Facebook and the engagement stuff.
Wild, dude. Wow. Okay. That's good to know though. I mean, that's really cool.
Because Pinterest is like really important for you being a videographer.
Yeah, it's huge. You should see how many shot lists and style boards come through where it's like, oh, I love this style and that, and it's like, yeah. Oh, that's good information.
Yeah, well,
Pinterest is
you're
a
right.
different beast.
Pinterest is definitely a different beast.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. Well, and even at $1,000 a month, the more I think about it, the more I think I would agree with you, Frank. I don't know that I would advise somebody who's just getting into the business to necessarily, jump into that. But at some point you should be thinking about budgeting that. And even if you find somebody, because I know you mentioned kind of the $750 price point, like even if you can find somebody at that price point that maybe they're kind of like when you first started, like you most of us are not charging now what we charged when we first started, or vice versa. Like we weren't charging then what we charge now. And then and I'll bring this up in a second here. So finding somebody to help you see if this type of presence and existence is even going to yield business for you, because you may find that it doesn't even do that. And if it doesn't do that, then, maybe you don't want to spend money on it, but at the end of the day, I still think it's important, and I think it's a hard line to measure, because also if you're not really drilling down to where somebody actually, what triggered them to actually reach out to you, then you might miss it a lot. You know what I mean? Because they may have seen you on social media a couple of times and didn't put 2 and 2 together until they went to a venue, and a venue said, hey, these people, we work with them all the time. And then that's the trigger for them to call you. And then you ask them, hey, how did you hear about us, or whatever method by which you do that. And they say, oh, the venue, told me about you. When all reality is they already saw you on social media. It's just they didn't make the connection yet. So I think it's a hard line to measure, but I think it's still an important one to have,
Yeah.
Frank, this question's for you, man.
Yeah. So that's a great question, because basically what I thought Pinterest was a social media, was just like Instagram, just like Facebook, right? Had the ability to kind of do all the same things, probably a little more Instagram-y, but just kind of packaged in like idea bunches, right? So like they call them boards, but right? So like red wedding designs or blue wedding designs or, you know, autumn wedding designs. Like I just kind of thought, okay, well, it's like Pinterest with, I mean, it's like Instagram with these like categories, basically.
Mhm.
What I came to find out was Pinterest, the way you write a caption on Pinterest is probably exactly what makes it completely different than any other social media platform. You know, on Instagram, you're hashtagging, you're tagging, you're using, you know, you're trying to create like direct engagement by getting responses and back and forth with clients or vendors or whoever, right? Whatever your target audience is for whatever it is you're doing. With Pinterest, you're literally telling the user, the person looking, this picture was at this venue, it was at this time of year, here was a vendor, here was a vendor, here was a vendor, but there's no tagging, there's no hashtagging. You just give it to them like you would on a website. And so think about it more like, I don't want to call it a blog because I know that's not really what it is, but it's written differently. It's not like everybody's connected. And then what you want that person to do is you want them to be able to see your idea and then just grab it and hold it for them to use later on, versus where on Instagram, right, everybody's looking at your top 9. You know, they're not even scrolling past that. They want to see it pop up on their timeline. It only lives on their timeline for so long, you know. So it's a much different pace of play on Instagram. And so because of that, the captions have to be a lot different than what you deal with on Pinterest. So it's more like a search engine, social media search engine.
Yeah, I think the discoverability of things on Pinterest lives a lot longer than the discoverability of maybe something on an Instagram platform or maybe even Facebook for that matter. You know, so I think that's a definitely a great way to describe that.
Yeah, that's a great. Oh, go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to say, in no way am I a Pinterest expert. So if there is a Pinterest expert watching, please feel free to go ahead and drop a better explanation than my long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'm an expert in anything either. So I feel that, man.
Yeah.
I feel that. I just try to offer the best advice I can offer based on experience.
That's it. That's all we can do. I was just going to add to that too about YouTube. I feel like it's very similar to Pinterest in terms of the search engine ability with YouTube and stuff like that, you know, for video folks or even, I mean, DJs and anyone that's posting video content. I think it serves more as like a search engine than it does as an actual something like Instagram where, you know, you're talking about timelines and things of that nature. So.
Well, and you know, think about another thing too is think about what do you really want out of it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, what do you want out of it?
Yeah. And it's tough, you know, because I think that was kind of my thing. That's one of the questions they asked. You know, do you want followers? Do you want engagement? Do you want people to actually approach you through your Instagram account, like looking for DJs? Like, what's your end goal?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I kind of had to assess all of that and take their advice too, of course, right? Like I'm not the expert either, so yeah, it's been an interesting journey. But I'll tell you this: if you find a good social media manager, they're going to walk you through all this.
Yeah.
You know, you definitely don't need to come to me. That's for sure. You know, you go to them and they're gonna guide you. They have workflows, they have questionnaires. I mean, they do everything to help you like get all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the coolest thing that's going to end up happening, or at least what I saw happen, and it's been a while, but I mean, when people start to DM you and be like, "Hey, I'm really interested in your services. Like, can you send me like a quote or can you draft a proposal for me?" That's super cool and super rewarding to see. Like, oh, hey, like people are looking, and I really feel like David said it earlier. This generation that's getting married is living on social media. I mean, they find everything on social media: restaurants, places to hang out. It's social media is where it's at, and it's hard for someone who's maybe not totally into it, and that's why you should hire a manager for sure. And it's been it's for me personally, it's been really tough. But you know, when you have a weakness, the best thing you can do for yourself is find someone who is an expert, like David said, is an expert in that field, or like you said, Frank, who's an expert in that field. Like, I suck at social media, so I am absolutely for, you know, in exchange for, you know, half of an event for, you know, a month, I'd be glad to have someone take that over for me for sure.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's, I'm telling you, like, to me, guys, this is what I mean when I say you have to have, um, you have to have your business plan in place, and that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't succeed, not just in our industry, but any small business industry. It's like, if you don't have a clear path of understanding what it takes to actually make it as a business, then you're just spinning your wheels. You know what I mean? And that's why, if you're doing budgeting and you're doing the things that you should be doing, then you already go into it. Um, you should already go into it with that mindset, essentially.
Yeah.
Dude, me too.
Same. I mean, dude,
That's
yeah,
funny.
Google's where I'm at for sure.
That's
But,
funny.
yeah, and dude, don't short Google either, because you never know where someone's gonna find you. You know what I mean? Like, if someone goes and hits up your, Google My Business, and they see good reviews and you have a good profile on there too, dude. There's so many different avenues that people can find you. You just have to
Yeah.
find what works for you.
Yep. Yep. Well, we were supposed to have our buddy Big Earn on here to talk with us tonight about, some traveling stuff, which I think that might be what he's still dealing with right now, is some traveling stuff. So,
Yeah.
ironically, it's kind of apropos that he's having some challenges as far as being able to get to us and get on the show. So, I still think it's a topic that maybe we can dive into together a little bit. I mean, I don't think that. I don't know that any one of the three of us, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think any one of the three of us have an extensive experience in really traveling that much. But, there's just some different things that I think about when, when you think about the level of responsibility you really have to put on yourself when it comes to the difference between, let's say you do an event that's within driving distance to get back home if you forget something, versus not being able to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I think about all the time. I know, Nick, when you and I first kind of started doing our production stuff together, a lot of that work that we do from a production standpoint is a ways away from where we both live. And I know the first couple of times there were things that we forgot, and we're like, or didn't even think about needing to have, and like, we're scrambling to go to Best Buy or whatever we can do to get what we needed. And it was just I mean, that's an added level of stress you don't really have to put on yourself if you just understand the important. I mean, we're all human beings, and we're sometimes going to forget things, but it's having that plan in place when you're in a position where you can't just drive home and go get it real quick, or you can't send your assistant if you have somebody, or you can't have somebody from your house bring it to you, or any of those options. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the first thing for me that I'm thinking about is I actually just booked a wedding in Portland in May. So I'll be going coast to coast on that one. So that's similar to your point, is like, dude, we can't just drive home and get it. And that, for me, logistically, that adds in a completely different level of just preparation and things that need to happen. I mean, and I have to account for my time when I'm in that too, because I have to leave. You cannot fly to the wedding. I'm going to be there probably a day and a half before I have to actually be there, in case something happens with flying right now. I mean, I'm looking for a direct flight, because I'm going Orlando to Portland, because you can't what if you get stuck somewhere? You know what I mean? That's something that you should have absolutely consider. And then especially for DJs, that maybe you can touch on it a little bit logistically in terms of equipment. Luckily for me, it's a camera, a gimbal that can fit in a suitcase, and I can carry most of the stuff on the plane without issues. But, maybe you can elaborate on, how, like, the logistically, how are you getting DJ equipment across the country on an airplane?
Yeah. Well, and I think even to your point about the direct flight situation, you even have to hope that your flight doesn't get changed.
Canceled.
I mean, the last two times that I have traveled where I've had to fly, both of those times I booked direct flights there and back, both times. And both times that I did that, I ended up getting switched to flights that were not direct flights by the airlines. Now, we have to assume or at least hope, I think, that eventually all of that world is going to even out a little bit and be a little bit better and go back to, you know, maybe 1 in 10 flights you do are horrible versus 1 in 2 flights you do seem like they're horrible right now, right?
Yeah.
Or here's another thing, and Frank, I'd love for you to talk about this. What about if you're not a person that flies? Because I know, Frank, you're not a big flyer there.
That's
so
a great point.
That brings another aspect to it.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't fly anymore. My last flight was officially coming back across the Atlantic Ocean from Europe in 2011, and I said I would never do it again for whatever reason. That was just it for me. So no more flight. What I've noticed in the DJ community that a lot of people do. So this is a little specific to the world of DJing, right? So they outsource the rental of that equipment, right? So you know, the price is going to include the fact that I'm going to, you know, contact one of my fellow DJs that I'm familiar with, or that somebody in my circle is familiar with, to gain the equipment that I need if they have it available, or to utilize them to find where I can get the equipment, right? So, you know, driving would be what it would be for me. I might just have to drive a little bit long, you know, I might have to spend more time traveling than other people would, just because I'm done with the planes. But ultimately, you know, I would find someone in that area or as nearby as possible that would have that equipment available. And then I would just, you know, include that in my pricing in some way. I wouldn't tell them, hey, you're paying this in that way. You know, if they wanted to see it broke down and itemized, I would, of course. But I would just kind of package it in a way that included those things.
Let me ask you all this. I'm curious about both y'all's opinion. What do you think I mean, other than the obvious, like, what is the allure to wanting to work somewhere that's, you know, where you have to fly to get there, or something like that? And do you guys think that when you go do these events, do you think you should charge more? Do you think you should, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Or do you think you're charging what you would normally charge at home? And I think I already know the answer to that. I hope I know the answer to that. But I'm just curious what y'all think about that. And then also everybody in the comments too.
Yeah.
Tell us your thoughts, because I you know, we can tell you our opinions all day long, and maybe they're good, maybe they're not, maybe they apply, maybe they don't. But I'd love to hear in the comments like what you guys think about that stuff too. But y'all go ahead with that.
Frank, you want to hit it first?
Yeah, I mean, my time is money.
Yeah,
and that's how I'm going to look at it. Now, am I going to charge you the same amount as am I going to charge you the same amount while I'm sitting in the hotel room for, you know, 2 days of my life versus what I'm going to charge you when I'm physically at your wedding? Absolutely not. You know, but what I am going to do is I'm going to account for the fact that, you know, maybe I'm taking a day off of my work because I have a day job. In my case, you know, maybe you're losing another event because you have to travel on Friday, or you have to be there a day ahead of time, you know, depending on how far it is. And I see some of these wedding vendors that regularly do like things on islands, and I'm sure that's not like a pick up and fly in the morning and be there by the afternoon type thing. So, you know, you're kind of taking all that stuff into account. I don't know what the pricing structure would look like personally. I do know that there's a lot of really good resources specifically in the DJ industry to identify numbers that make sense when it comes to being like a more of like a traveling DJ. But yeah, I think you have to value all of your time in that instance. You know, do I always charge a couple that hour where they want me to sit and not play anything for the cocktail hour because they have a string quartet? Probably not. Sometimes, just depends on how long they want me to sit, right? But as far as like this goes, all of those times you kind of have to account for that. I love what Chris Disk says here too.
I'll dive into that part of the question too, if you want. I mean, because I'm right on board with you, Chris. Yeah. I think a lot of people, for me personally, the reason I took the wedding in Portland was, first of all, it was a referral from a friend, so it's a friend's wedding, of course. I charged accordingly. I knew I was going to need a hotel. I knew I was going to need, you know, travel, and I knew also, you know, Dave and I talk about this all the time. It's 2 additional days away from business, so I have to account for that because it's time that I could be doing something else. And that has to be accounted for. Like you said, Frank, I'm not going to charge the same price. But in terms of what Chris was saying, I think a lot of people, like, it's cool to see new places for sure. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's cool to travel. It's cool to like kind of build a little vacation into it. I think that's totally fine. But I think there's a whole other realm of people that are also doing this because they believe that like I'm so good and I'm that good where there's no one in Portland, Oregon that can do this wedding as good as I can. And I think it really, and I mean no offense to anyone when I say this, but I think there really comes a huge ego boost involved in that, where you think I'm so good that there's no one else in this area that can do that, which is complete and total garbage, because I really do believe that there are videographers in Portland that are just as good, if not better than I am. And I think it's just a matter of who they find, who they like, and who they vibe with. But I think there's so much ego in that, in terms of like, I'm the shit, I'm so good, you know, I'm just that good, where I require to go all over the place. And I think a lot of people end up letting their ego take the driver's seat, and then they end up not running as optimal of a business as they could, because they're thinking with their ego and not, you know, the logical side of their brain.
Yep.
Just my 2 cents on that.
Frank, you're muted, bud.
I keep muting myself because my kids are like running by screaming, and then I forgot that time.
All good.
Thanks
okay.
for calling
We're
me
all
out on
family here, so don't worry about that. I got the dog on the lap. So what do you
Shantae.
He always wants to make an appearance on the show. So
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Prettiest one out of all 4 of us. So
Exactly.
Very fair point. You bring a very fair point up, my friend.
You know, sometimes I think that there's like there's 2 types of traveling wedding vendors, in my opinion. You know, there's the people who are in the right situation to be able to go and do and see new places, and that's like one of the things that they enjoy, so then they do it that way. But you're definitely right. There's also a large chunk of people in this industry that I think that just do it for clout.
Yes,
right?
Clout, yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, whether it gains them clout in the industry or not, it definitely does with clients.
Yeah.
You know, they see traveling, whoever, whatever they do, these are all the places they've been. Wow, that person wouldn't have been asked to go all these places and do all these weddings if they're not amazing, you know? And so while we all know that there might be better people who are just stationary, that's not what clients are going to see. That's not what couples are going to see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Well, and I just think, you know, that's kind of why I framed the question the way I did, because I just think that, you know, if you're going to choose to take that path, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think you still have to be smart about the business side of it. And maybe that's just me. You know, I've never really been somebody who cares about clout and ego and all of that stuff. I really just care about what my bank account looks like. I'm just being honest. Like, that's what I care about, what my bank account looks like. And, you know, I was using this example the other day. I was asked to go do an event in Melbourne, Florida, which is about a 2.5-hour drive there. So 5-hour round trip drive. Okay. And then the event was actually only like a 45-minute event, and which is so crazy to me in the first place, that the event was a 45-minute event and was a 5-hour round trip. But when I started looking at what I got paid to do it, which I'm not complaining about what I got paid to do it, they were on a very strict budget. And there were some things that I looked at and said, okay, me doing this one event could really lead to me doing a lot of other events for this company. So it was worth me being willing to compromise a little bit on what I wanted to get paid. But going into it, I was like, realistically, I get paid this much, if not more money, to do an event at Crosswater Hall in Nocatee, which is 5 minutes away from my house.
Exactly.
At that, you know what I'm saying? So that 5-hour round trip drive that I'm on, you can try to tell me, oh, well, you can conduct business on the road and stuff like that, but you know it's not the same thing. You know, the only business you're typically conducting on the road is me catching up with you guys, and you know, just like, you know, just ancillary little shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not really seriously conducting business. And so I think my point in all this is you got to really think about the time that's being taken away from your business and the things that you normally do in your business. Because if you're a business owner, like most of us are, you're wearing most all of the hats of your business, right? And so if this one element is taking you away from all of the other hats in your business, it's got to be worth it. It has to be worth it. strictly my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you made great points in there. Like you said, you can you can do an event literally 10, 15 minutes in your town versus, taking a 6-hour flight, whatever, um, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with like, oh, like I love going, I'll tell you, like, I love going to, like, David, I like going to Tampa and St. Pete for weddings. The vibe out there is awesome. I get rejuvenated from doing it. You charge a little travel fee, bada bing, bada boom, your time's being accounted for. But I think your heart has to be before you start traveling, I really feel like you have to have your heart in the right place with business. And I really think you have to make sure you're coming from a place where your heart's right, and get your head and heart right.
And there's got to be an understanding with the relationship with your client as well. I think your client, you have to be able to, as politely as possible, you have to be able to convey to that client that I understand that your event is on Saturday, but I am not going to be able to work because I'm going to have to travel on Friday because you don't want me to come the day of. So I'm going to have to travel on Friday. Your event is on Saturday. It goes until X amount of time at night. I can't leave until Sunday. So those are 3 days of your time. And those are potentially 2 other days that you could book business. And if you're a solopreneur, then you're just screwed. At least if you have a staff, or you have like somebody that you could sublet the event to or something like that, then that gives you a possibility of still making that money and not totally losing that money. But if you're a solopreneur, then you're losing that opportunity to generate revenue for yourself. And so you have to be okay with realizing the value of that. And then you have to be okay with conveying that to your client and saying, listen, I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I'm just trying to say that it has to be advantageous to you from a professional standpoint, not just from a, yay, I get to go to a place I've never been to before standpoint.
Right. And I think a lot of people see the, yay, I get to go to a place I've never been to before, because maybe they're just excited.
Yeah.
But dude, to Frank's point, man, I think that was a really, really good point. Like with clout, I think clout is a huge driver for a lot of people for some reason. And maybe because you could charge more money. I'm not really sure. Like Dave, I'm more in the mindset of David, where I'm like, what's my bank account look like? What are my retirement funds looking like? And what else is going on? Like, I'm not, super concerned with clout. But I mean, there's to each their own, man. Like if you love to travel and you're able to do it in a way that's advantageous to your business, by all means do it. But I think for a lot of people, like I said, you hate to be a hammer on the head, but I think your heart has to be in the right spot to do it. And to serve your clients, to serve them in a way that they feel is very unique. And if you guys, like, I think it's a different experience, and it's a more immersive experience where I don't think you're going to necessarily be able to book as many clients. Like, you're going to really, like, you got to connect on a different level, in my opinion. If you're I've seen videographers and photographers that will travel to like Italy and all these international places. It's like, dude, you better be connecting with that client on such a deep and intimate level that you're almost like family by the time you get to the event. I think it's a different level of engagement that you definitely need to have as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like, let's just use the analogy, since it's in the screen right now. There's always one Michael Jordan, right? There's always going to be one Michael Jordan, but then there's going to be LeBrons and Kobe's and Shaq's and everybody else. yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, so there's gonna be those people out there that are just so damn hungry to be Michael, even though Michael is unattainable status. That's an unattainable status for anybody to ever reach. Mm-hmm. No matter how good you are, no matter how amazing you are, that first Michael Jordan is just always locked in, right? So, whatever the industry is, right? I know coordinators, what's the guy's name that we always hear about when we were on Clubhouse all the time? David Tatera, right? Yeah. I don't know if he's considered the Michael Jordan of coordinating, right? But I mean, when you're out in front of everybody as much as he is, as far as like being on, Home and Garden and being on all those different shows and whatnot, right? I mean, that probably puts you up there. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be those people that just chase that, So then if Michael is now traveling, now I want to travel. If Michael now has his home base in New Jersey, now I want to have my home base in New Jersey. I say that in the DJ world because it feels like it's like the home base of like some of the biggest DJ companies, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just kind of how it is. And so I think some of those people are just kind of chasing like that unattainable thing of, because you always have those I want to be the best people.
Yep. Dude, I think Frank just opened up a huge box. I want to dive into it, dude. In terms of what you were just saying, I think there's a lot of people also that, status quo isn't enough. But dude, what happens when it's a slippery slope, right? Because what happens when you have a family? What happens when you have a significant other? What happens to the rest of your life where you can, hey, dude, let's go hang out today. Hey, man, when you just go in that thing, it's almost like Hollywood, man. I like a lot of people, like you see like Hollywood, you sell your soul to Hollywood and that kind of stuff, where it's like, dude, once you go down that road, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. And I'm not trying to shit on anyone that's doing that. If you make it and that's awesome and you love it, by all means. But I also think there's another side to the story as well, where it's like, dude, well, I want to spend time with my kids on Saturday night, and I want to be able to go to a movie, or I want to be able to go, choose which weddings I get to do so I can spend time with my wife. You know what I mean? Like there's that kind of stuff as well that I think gets kind of just tossed in the air when, you become that guy, that famous guy, and it's a slippery slope, man. I can only imagine. So
yeah.
Well, and again, it just I you know me, I'm going to harp on it. It still also comes down to money. Like you have to be willing to be honest with yourself. Are you? Listen, it's kind of like, since we're talking about analogies here, it's kind of like, trying to think of a good one. Like, I don't know. It's like in the beginning of anything, like you have this mindset of like, I want to experience everything and I want to try everything and blah, blah, blah. And I think, okay, so like when people turn 21, like they can legally go out and drink, right? And you hear all of these stories of people like when they get to college or when they turn 21 and they go, nowadays you probably turn 12 and you do this, but I'm just saying like, like you turn 21 and you go ape shit for a while with drinking nonstop all the time. And then, and then it evens out after a while and you start to realize that, what is this really doing for me?
Yes.
Is this really doing anything for me? Like, is this really what I want for my life? Okay.
Is this it? Yeah.
So in the same breath, it's like, yeah, go out and do that and go out and, do your thing or whatever and see what you can experience in life. But at some point you have to tap into the practicality of it and say to yourself, if I add up all the time that I invested in this opportunity to go to X, was it really worth the money that I ended up making in the long run? And if the answer to that question is no, then you have to evaluate, okay, then can I continue to keep doing this and sustain a business, or am I just using this business to bankroll me traveling all over the place? And if that's the case, sure, whatever. Like if you can make that work, that's great. But hey, it looks like Big Earn was able to join us. So let's get him on.
What?
We're going right in. Ernie Earn, what up, man?
What's going on?
What's up, guys?
Glad you're here, man.
What's up, bro?
Oh, hold on. Let me get this light on.
Earn, fashionably late.
How's it going?
Hey.
And I mean that with the shirt too. Fashion.
Fashion. Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, David, and all you guys. Nick, Frank, so good to see you again. Yay. Today was
what's that?
Today was just off the topic and everything today. It was a lesson learned. It really was. You can plan and strategize as much as you want, and everything can go down the tube fast.
Yeah. Let's dive into that a little bit, because I think that's a great launching point of kind of where we are now with the conversation, is just kind of discussing the pros and cons in traveling, no matter what you do in the wedding and event industry, just having to travel and the the financial side of that. And you know, right before you jumped on, just to catch you up a little bit, in case you weren't watching, you know, we were just talking about how, you know, I use the example of like a Saturday event. And if you have a Saturday event, you're typically traveling on Friday, maybe even Thursday, and then you're not heading back until at minimum, probably Sunday. And those are all days that, number one, you're being taken away from the other aspects of your business that you do. And there are also days that you now technically can't book another event on the calendar unless you have a staff that works with you to help out with that stuff. So that's kind of where we are right now.
No, that's I love that, because if you notice in my bio, yeah, it's a hybrid that I'm doing. It really is. It's different. There's always been that separation between a single op and a multi-op. You know, single op, obviously somebody who just runs on their own. Multi-op, somebody that runs with other DJs under themselves. But I really have a multitude of everything. You know, I have so many people that request me as just for me, for Big Earn, but then who else do I recommend? Okay. And then I also have a partner that I work with. So running a single op, multi-op, and then also working with other DJs. So outsourcing DJs, you know, not necessarily working for me, but also maybe under a white label. It's been a juggling act. It really has. But when you're getting it down, it's just a matter of diving in and doing it and learning and growing. And that's what I love, is the challenge when it comes to what people are asking for. I may not necessarily have it within my company. I could hit it spot on within my company, but at least now I've networked enough over the last, 5 years. I want to say that, meeting all of you, especially through this journey that we've all been going through, and being able to expand in that way. So it's been great. It's been a fantastic adventure, I should say.
That's awesome. Hey, maybe just to bounce off of that, why do you like to travel? What do you like about it?
I was thinking about that today, as a matter of fact. I'm like, Ernie, you went through all this shit today. Sorry, pardon my language.
Go for it, man. You know we do it.
Yeah, it's good.
I literally had to get up at 5 a.m, where I was in Washington State, drive 2.5 hours to get to the airport in Seattle, go through the parking of my vehicle, getting a ride from the parking lot to the airport, then going through TSA, which I'll give hacks, and trust me, I'll tell you what it is. But even then, there were still delays within that. So the only thing that saved my butt today to being here from Washington State, going all the way over to Raleigh, North Carolina, was my flight got delayed. I lucked out so hard today. Otherwise, I would not be here. I would be in Washington right now doing this. So yeah. Do you want me to give you the spiel on what happened though?
Yeah,
it was
totally
like
sure.
That's like telling us the little write up about a movie on the back when these things called DVDs were out, and there was a little write up on the back thing of the DVD case, and then you didn't get to watch the movie. So
you didn't get to watch.
We need to watch the movie now, man.
I gave you the teaser. Is what I did. I gave you the teaser. So yeah, long story on that. I mean, been planning to do this since last week, and everything kind of fell into place to getting tickets, getting the hotel, and also my rental for the car rental too. So everybody can do this any which way they want. I know people like to budget for stuff, but I mean, going off of what Nick asked me, why do I love to travel? Man, I get to do stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to do at home. I mean, who wouldn't love to rent $100,000 car, for a couple days? You know what I mean? Who wouldn't love to stay in, luxurious hotel room, for a couple nights, in another city that you've never been to,
Right.
And especially seeing everybody in the DJ community. That's the biggest thing. Being able to go and network and work as well, doing a lot of accomplishing, helping out other DJs, asking those questions, because I love getting those messages from people like, Ern, how do you do this? You know, what do you recommend? This is what we do. This is what we are behind the scenes. When people say, oh, you at downtime, you travel all the time. I'm like, well, no, I'm still working. Trust me, my emails, as soon as I got off the flight, blew up. You know, there was just all kinds of stuff I missed about the day, not only with DJs, but also clients, you know, that have been asking to work with me. So going from that point, we'll start from when I woke up this morning at 5 a.m., got everything together, thinking I've got 3.5 hours, 4 hours before I can get to my flight. Granted, it's 2.5 hours to get to the airport. Things that I had in place just to make sure that I got there on time. When I got to the location to drop off the car, I had to go over a mountain pass from Yakima to Seattle. Wow. There's the entire Cascade Mountains that I have to go through. Wow. So the only reason why I did make it there, because weather, all it was just wet. There was no snow, there was no freezing rain, there was no ice, there were no accidents. So thankfully, none of that happened. Going through, getting into Seattle, keep in mind, this is, you're like at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now I've got to worry about rush hour, okay, going through Seattle. No, hopefully no accidents, hopefully no congestion, hopefully no road construction. Every major city out there has got road construction. That's the one thing you look forward to, right? You're like, great, bumper to bumper, get it go 15 miles an hour, but none of that happened. Thankfully, that worked out great. Made it to the parking lot, dropped off the car. I was fortunate enough to drop off the car, get my ticket, and hop into a bus, the shuttle, that took me to the airport. Didn't even have to wait in the shuttle bus. Got to the airport within 5 minutes. Told him, you know, he asked me, he's like, which airline, when's your flight leave? And I told him, I was like, it leaves in 30 minutes. Can we get out of there? He's like, I got you. I was like, oh boy. He goes, put on your seatbelt though. Right. So he grabs my luggage. We get in there and stuff, and we're whipping around corners. And yeah, sure enough, man, he got me from the parking lot to the airport. Now it was on me. Now it was a matter of like getting through TSA. One hack I recommend for people that are traveling, either get on pre-check or go through Clear. Have Clear. Phenomenal. I mean, there was already a line a mile long, people trying to travel and stuff, and because everything's opening up, it's great. But Clear got me through within seconds.
What is Clear?
I loved it. There was no line. Clear. Are you familiar with Clear?
I'm not, no.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So Clear is kind of like TSA, okay? So with pre-check. So with pre-check, as long as you go through the screening process, you apply. I got in when it was only $100. So for me, I think it's going to go up a little bit more, but since I got in early, I don't get that charge right now. But what Clear does is, yeah, you get that pre-screening. They check in your ID, all that in advance. So your ID, your fingerprint, your eyes, your photo, and all you have to do is when you go through Clear, you skip the entire line of everybody trying to go through pre-check. And the beauty of it is that I got all kinds of mean looks on it and stuff, but I'm sorry. Hey, I did what I did, you know, it is what it is. But instead of waiting in 45 minutes, an hour to get through just the screening part, I got bumped right into the front of the line right away, since I already did that in advance.
Gotcha.
And it's a year charge. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if you travel that much, like what I do, but even for, let's say if you travel 4 times out of the year and you're going to major cities, you're going to skip that line every time. You're not going to have to worry about being behind massive lines of people or any of those people that like have issues with their credentials, something like that. You just go right to that front of the line. Now, this is where another hiccup happened for me today, though. Even after the fact, when I skipped the line, I got into the actual screening process. There was 4 elderly ladies that were in wheelchairs. So there's a little extra that goes into that. They have to take all their luggage, all their bags and stuff that they're trying to go through and screen. Then they have to manage going through the actual scanner itself. One lady in there had, she had metal plates in her arms. So they had to hold up, and they had to bring over a female TSA agent to do the proper screening for her. And I'm like, looking at my clock, cool, it's 8:25 right now. My flight leaves in 5 minutes. This is great. Hey, Brian. Just, that is one of the guys that I learned from, so I'll name drop him, and I'll give you the info about Brian B, because, I learned a lot from him when it came to planning and coordinating the right infrastructure when it comes to traveling and working at the same time. So long story short, I finally got through. I was worried I missed my flight. I got lucky that my flight got delayed. It got delayed by 20 minutes. So I was able to get onto the flight and still make it out here. That's the movie part of it itself. I'm officially here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I doing this traveling back and forth. It's not for everybody. Okay, I'm going to put it out there right now. If you love to travel, great. But there takes a lot of strategy behind it. And this is what I learned from Brian. You guys were hitting on it exactly. Like when you travel from one destination to another, you're missing out on days possibly. Especially if you're doing a wedding on a Saturday out of the area, you got to fly out the night before. For me, I have to, at least the night before or the day before that. Okay. Because last thing I want to do is what I ran into today, be delayed. I know there's DJs out there that do that show up the day of, but there is so much that can go wrong. Okay. Yeah. But you ride on that gamble. Some people love to gamble on that. Yeah. I'm not a gambler. Yeah. Not. But at the same time, I get it. People don't want to lose out on money. Like they want to do the gig the night before in their own hometown, then fly out of town to go do that gig, and then come back and do the next gig the day after. That is a lot to ride on. Yeah. So what do you
especially right now?
What do you try to do? Yeah, especially right now. This is where you network. I mean, make the best of it, whether if it's one, show up a day before, not plan anything, or if you want to plan an event to maximize your time and money, do a gig, do multiple gigs in that area. You never know. Reach out to local friends, local DJs, local planners, any coordinators, any venues. Hit them up. You never know.
Yeah.
But then you can maximize your time and then earn money the whole time you're gone. I know that's the concern with other DJs. For me, it's not. It's a matter of the level where you're at on your income, what you're charging for the event. Okay, you can only charge so much for the travel portion. You can only charge so much for the production part of it. So the only thing that's really going to differentiate, and this is what I learned from Brian B, is the talent portion. How much are you worth, and what are you bringing to the table that's really going to make a difference at their event that they booked you for? Are you worth what they're asking or what you're asking? Are you worth? Is it going to fit their budget? Now you really find out where you're going to be. So,
yeah.
Whew, man.
How much? I mean, I don't need exact dollar amounts, but I'm just curious, like how from that talent. Well, yeah, I guess from that talent fee standpoint, how much variance is there in pricing difference between when you do an event in Washington versus when you do an event on the East Coast?
Right. So this is what comes into play then. I love this question because I get it asked all the time. But what really makes that is you take the numbers that you possibly could be making that whole weekend, okay? And then you got to adjust for what you're willing to make, So it really doesn't matter on just that one weekend. It's the overall what you're doing for the whole year, right? Mm-hmm. So you have what you want to make the whole year. So let's say it's $200,000 that as a DJ you want to make as a solo op, that just for you alone. Then how many events do you want to do throughout that year? Okay. Yep. And if it can correlate then within that one weekend where that's all you worry about is just that one event, great. You don't have to stress, you know, about like, well, shit, I need to do this Thursday. I have to do that Friday, then fly out Friday night, get there in the red eye, you know, and popping a bunch of Red Bulls, you know, or Monsters, 5-hour energy drinks and stuff. By the way, Big ERN Energy does not come from any of those at all. Big ERN Energy is just natural stuff. That's that's what you get, is just the hype. It's planning that out far in advance. Okay, I'm not saying like you can try to squeeze it in this year doing this. Maybe the next couple years, because we're already booking into 2023. Things kind of fall in place. That could be the gravy part of it. You know, it could be one of those where like you plan to have a weekend off, and then all of a sudden the one chance that it happens where you get asked to DJ out of your area. Okay, so what's it going to cost? And on top of that, how much do you want to make? And the worst thing that can happen when you throw out that number at them after you justified, you got to justify the cost, obviously, to those people, because that's happened to me. Like short notice, people have asked me. It just happened the other day. Somebody wanted me to go down to Arizona, which is out in the middle of nowhere. I can't even remember the name of the city, though. I feel bad, but I just threw out the number because what it would cost to rent the equipment to have it sent there. Then for me to stay there for the time that I would have to help. And then since it was such short notice, I would have to cram everything that they're asking me to do for their wedding in between everybody else's that's already booked a year and a half, 2 years in advance. So that's more work.
Yeah, you got to kind of have to put other things on hold because now they become more of a priority because they're short-term business. Yep.
Right. So everybody out there that thinks that wedding DJs, especially at the level that we're at, think that we just show up the day of and that's it. No, there's so much planning and processing that they do beforehand. That's why things happen so seamless. That's why things happen so perfectly. And then the end result, people say, man, that was amazing. It was more than I expected. That's because it all went into that proper process. Yeah. And again, shout out to Brian B on that, because he definitely showed me quite a bit, and I love it.
Well, I love the fact, because this is part of what I was talking about earlier before you jumped on. I love the fact that you said, I'm thinking about the money I could be making and factoring that into what I'm charging, this client. Now, you mentioned about justifying things. What are some pointers maybe you can give to people on how that process looks?
So, big lesson learned is that the majority of your fee, and everybody has a different model. I get it, whether you're starting, you've been in the business for a long time. But what I've changed my model is that the talent, the one thing that differentiates the DJ versus everybody else is the personality, the actual talent. Okay. There's only one David. There's only one Nick. There's only one Frank. There's only one me. And if people don't understand, like, well, what makes you more than the other guy that's charging, 3 digits on their DJ services? Everybody has to start somewhere, okay? And then when you educate them and show them the different creative value that you bring to their event, some people will get it. It's okay to have resistance. You don't have to book everybody. No, okay? And that's the beauty of this business, okay? Don't get the FOMO. Don't worry about, other guy says, oh my gosh, I'm booked so much this year. I have so much business. Oh, I have, 8 weddings this weekend and stuff. It's like, great, good for you, but not everybody's charging the same. That's why you see the difference on the rates, the guys that are just starting, or the guys that, are doing it for a while, that are being at 3 digits. But then you have the other guys that are at 5 digits and working less, That resistance is good. It's having that resistance, having people say no to you is a good thing. Okay. It's humbling. At the same time, that, for one, there's ways to improve, but don't take it personal. Don't, because there's so many people out there that are tire kickers. We know that. There's people that, I don't give a shit what you offer. I just want to know how much you charge. That's it. you know?
Yeah.
So
And it
don't get
seems
hung
like
up
there's
on,
more and more of those lately too.
oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt, especially like Wedding Wire, going through Wedding Wire and stuff. If you get a real person, sorry, I'm not calling out Wedding Wire or anything. I'm saying they're all, they could be legit. They are, but it's a matter of like, where do you put yourself? Who are you capturing? Who is your target? You know, what type of client are you going for? You know, what does your website say who you are? What are you telling people? What is your branding showing people? That's the thing. It's like you got to do a lot of self-reflect. Okay, when people go to your website, is that the target person you're wanting? You know, are you trying to just throw a blanket to everybody saying, oh yeah, I've got sparklers, I've got photo booths, I've got, you know, movie screen and stuff. Movies on the Stars, shout out. Just, but I mean, who is your target though? Are you going for your local area? Are you going for destination? You know, what does your website really call out to? Is your website even working good? You know, what's your SEO? What's your turnaround? You know, you look at people who are actually clicking your website, and you'll get those full demographic information. You just got to pay for it. That's all. If your website sucks, find somebody who can freaking launch it. You know, there's tons of amazing people out there that will rock your website. Shout out, Kay Louise. Love you, Kaylee.
Look at you go with all the drops.
I know, man.
There's a lot of drops. It really is. I mean, put it to you this way. 5 years ago, where I was at, I seriously thought I was doing great. You know, I didn't know it could get better. I really didn't. You know, it was a lot of people that got put in front of me saying your business could be doing so much more than where you're at. And I'm glad I asked how. How can it be better? For number one was offering a better product. Okay, stepping up who Big Ern was. Okay, Big Ern showed up, busted his ass at events. You know, putting out, you know, 18-hour days, going in super early the night before. You know, setting up early. But then when I broke it down on the hours and then bringing it down, I'm like, man, I'm making just as much as the manager at McDonald's right now. What the hell? And for all those hours I was putting in, and then it showed what I could be at. First I wanted to know where I wanted to be at. That was the biggest thing. Like where does Big Ern want to be? And then the breakdown after that. Okay, so how many events do I got to do in a year? At what price? Let's say just weddings alone. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? You know, what's it going to take? And if I was hitting those numbers, what can I do to actually hit those numbers? I got to make sure I'm putting out the right capture on the website. So when it came to who I was reaching out to, I didn't want to go and say, you know, best deal, you know, hey, you if you book me in 2020, book me for 2022, since we're in 2021, I'll give you a 30% discount. What am I saying? You know, yeah. Big thing that I learned was Walmart sales never hurt Gucci. If that makes sense. Walmart can sell the shit out of what they sell. They can sell trillions if they needed to. Gucci doesn't give two shits about what Walmart does, because what Gucci puts out is only what Gucci puts out. They don't run sales ever. There's never a Gucci sale. Okay. And that's a big shout out right there to the Garzaros. Alex and Gabriel, those two.
Dude, that's a really interesting point. But you know, you had also mentioned a little bit about you know, it's a learning opportunity when people say no to you, you know, but that doesn't always mean, just to kind of expand on that, that doesn't always mean that it's a learning opportunity where you're going to change anything that you're doing. Maybe you were doing it 100% correct, and that person saying no just validates that when you go and check out their social media afterwards, or when you see pictures of their wedding because they were referred to you by a venue that you're familiar with, and you see the pictures, right, and you're like, you know what? Like that wasn't my wedding at all. So them saying no to me was perfect because I know what I'm saying is not appealing to them, but it's appealed to the other 40, 50, 60, whatever number of weddings or events that you've had that year. So it's not always a learning opportunity for you to necessarily make a change, but sometimes it's a learning opportunity just to say, you know what, like this is spot on. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be because this is whatever it is that I decided for me and my business.
Right. And I'm not saying change your price just because you can. Don't do it. I mean, the product has to meet what the price is, you know. So whatever you're charging, you do have to show that value to the client then, because they'll ask and they'll call you out. You know, if you're just posing just because you hear this one DJ in your area is charging this much, and you're like, well, shit, I'm just going to raise my prices. And you do that, and you do the event, and you don't bring the game, you don't bring the show that you promised you would. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt hard. So you got to make sure that what you're putting out, what you're charging for it matches.
What are and Frank, I know you have a family engagement tonight, so if you've got to get out of here at any point in time, we totally get it and understand, buddy. I don't want you to feel captive to be here with us.
My wife has already texted at me.
Yep.
Text yelled at me.
Yep.
I'm sorry,
already. Dude, you're fine. It is what it is. I didn't know we were doing something again tonight. That's on me. It is what it is. I got the text, where are you at? We're doing this. And I was like, I thought we did that already. But anyway, yeah, no, I should probably bounce before I get yelled at again. But Ern, man, first of all, I always love hanging out with you regardless. You know that, right? I'll see you in Atlantic City and in Nashville this year. So, I'll see you in both of those spots. But just real quick, 2 times this year, I know. But just real quick, just because I'm kind of, and I don't mean to like stop the convo and pick it up somewhere else, but I'm just curious, like, what are you doing in Raleigh?
Raleigh, North Carolina, tonight or tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I don't know if it's okay. I'm gonna ask David if it's okay. I want to make sure.
Of course it's okay. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
I love everybody in this industry, brother.
Okay, because there was a big discussion and they all love you too. So we need to do a big powwow real soon. Okay. But tomorrow is the 3-year anniversary for the DJ's Vault. And I got invited to come up to be a part of that live stream that's happening. Big giveaways, big appearances. My goodness, I'm so excited. Like all the people that are showing up. I can't mention some big names, but I was blown away just when I got the news about 30 minutes ago. So yeah, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for, is the 3-year anniversary celebration for the DJ's Vault to the day.
So are you going to be spinning live on the Twitch tomorrow, on the Twitch stream tomorrow? I got to know.
Anything is possible. It's live. Anything is possible. I mean, it's a star-studded event. I am just honored just to like see it live. But you got the Ragozas, you got ADMC is going to be there. A couple other big people that'll be there too. So I don't know where I fit in. I'll be glad to sit in a corner like this with my water bottle. Like, what the fuck?
No, that's cool. I didn't know. So I was like, you can tell all the guys that Frank's only dropping bits if Ern is on the decks.
Nice.
I'll be dropping bits there live. I'll be like,
I know you will. There is no doubt in my mind that you're going to drop a shit ton of bits. But all right, well, I'm going to hop off. As always, great to see you, Ern, David, Nick. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yep, and we'll catch up with
next
everybody,
week.
Or I'll catch up with everybody next week.
Sounds
For
good.
Sure, thanks,
Yep.
man.
Bye.
All right, brother. All right, so I think actually, no, in 2 weeks we're doing the show, not next week, in 2 weeks. I think just to kind of put a bow on tonight, I think, Ern, I would really be curious to know maybe the 2 or 3 things that just immediately come to your head that you say, I wish I would have known when I started that I know now about traveling and doing events.
Right. Initially, it was budgeting. Okay. I always thought I had to be frugal. I had to wash my pennies and get the cheapest room, taxi cab, Lyft, whatever, from place to place. It just to like save whatever I was making of the event, you know, because all that would come out of pocket. So I would tell them, well, this is what the price would be if you had me there. And then all those pennies that I was saving, that I was stressing about, that really affected my my energy. I'll flat out say it, you know, because if you think about it, if you're stressing about the money that you're making, you're like, you're trying to pinch pennies, you're trying to, you know, worry about what you're taking home to pay all the bills and stuff. You're not going to put out a good product then for the client. You're not. You're going to be disappointed. You're like, shit, I should have charged more. You know, I'm losing more money than I'm making. If you go into like, do what makes you happy getting there. Do what makes you happy while you're there. Okay. If you're okay with going on the red eyes, great. Do what you got to do. If that works for you, awesome. But for me, my style, I like to go in early, soak in the area, kind of recharge as I'm going, you know, build up that excitement. Why am I here? Look, I get to do this. So the day of the event, I'm hyped. I'm so hyped. I'm so energetic. I'm so excited just to be there. And then the day after, I have an option of either flying back that night or stay the extra day. Mm-hmm. Like I said, that's me. That's my style. But some other people, make sure you do what makes you happy for their events. Don't do the event just because you can. Do the event because you're going to give them the experience, what they're asking for, if not more what they asked for. I mean, what other job, you know, are you able to make people's one and only days the best it could possibly be, you know, and to only give them a mediocre thing because you're pissed off that you didn't make what you thought you were going to make, you know? Really put it down, break it down, like what you want to take home. And then after that, figure out what's going to make you happy while you're there, taking care of them.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Good stuff, man. Well, we appreciate you being able to make it on here with us. I know some challenges in traveling. I mean, it's not great that it happened, but it's appropriate, I guess, that it happened since this is what we were talking about tonight. But ultimately, I'm glad you were able to make it on with us and you know, dive into the conversation a little bit, and we'll have to do it again. Maybe we'll do it again when you don't have to travel to be where you got to go before you can be on the show.
Yeah. That,
right?
Like I said, thank you everybody for being so gracious on that. I appreciate it. You know, everybody that's on the stream, absolutely stick around for what David and Nick and Frank put out here at Wedding Business Growth. All great stuff. My goodness, even like the people that they have on this show, the Hollas last week. Oh, that was so awesome. Love the Hollas.
Yep. Hey man, we're all about helping people in this industry. We're all about you know, offering a sense of community and a sense of education, you know, and that really, you know, we talk about that all the time. I mean, I think if you go back to the very first episode of the podcast, that's what we were talking about. We want to be able to create a community, and we want to be able to provide an opportunity for education to that community, because for me personally, there's nothing more exciting than seeing people be successful at something they love doing. It's no fun if you're not being successful at it. So let's work on being successful at it so it can also be fun.
That's it.
Amen.
Yep. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks a lot.
Appreciate
hang around
you being
for
on.
a second. We're gonna sign off the live side of this thing, but hang around for a second, Ern, if you will, and we'll catch up for a minute. But thank you all for watching tonight. Nick, any closing words?
No, I'm glad you made it safer, and appreciate you being on. And yeah, thanks everyone for being on.
Awesome. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We will not be here next week, but we will back in 2 weeks. All right. So we'll see you then. Until then, just keep doing awesome shit. All right. We love y'all.